Now, 2 weeks after the collapse of the 21-story building on Gerard Road, Ikoyi, Lagos State, and that's precisely on the 15th of November 2021, the Nigerian Insurance Association, that's the NIA, and the Nigerian Council of Registered Insurance Brokers said none of their members provided insurance cover for the high-rise building. Now, according to the National Insurance Commission, that's NICOM, which is the regulatory body for the industry, out of 61 licensed insurance companies in the country, 44 operators comprising of 13 composites and 31 general underwriters can underwrite building insurance. The NIA currently has 41 out of 44 underwriters as its members. Also, the Director General of NIA, and that's Mrs. Yetunde Ilori, said, and I quote, "None of our members indicated that it insured the building. We even went ahead to contact the insurance companies if they have any information on it. They said they were not notified of anything. We made more inquiries from the agencies in charge of the building in Lagos, but we have not been able to get information or any insurance cover for the building." End of quote. Now, this brings me to my topic of today, which is the role of insurance in securing lives and properties. And yes, I have an insurance expert in the house, and he's here to give us insight as to what role does insurance play in securing our lives as an individual, what role insurance plays in protecting our property, what kind of insurance policy should you go after, and why are they important? Because apart from the negligence of duty on the part of the engineers contracted and also other supervising bodies, one critical aspect that was left behind is there was no insurance on the building. I have here with me Adebayo Adedeji. He is an insurance practitioner with over 5 years experience of insurance practice. His experience ranges from insurance sales, bank assurance, market analysis, insurance training, and consultancy. His core areas of practice are retail and SMEs. Welcome to the program, Adebayo Adedeji.
Good morning, brother. So,
Welcome to the program.
good morning.
Now, let me start by asking you, what exactly is insurance?
Okay, so insurance is the financial protection that we give. So the way it is let me put it in a layman language. Insurance is an agreement, is a contract between two parties, one the insured and the insurer, and is a risk transfer mechanism where the insured, who is the customer, pays what we call a premium in terms of money to the insurance company, which is the insurance organization. So with this, the insured is able to transfer his risk because we know that there's an element of risk in everything we do. Even being in the studio here today, there's an element of risk involved.
Okay. Now, talking about risk, let me touch on the risk that happened and which is at Gerard Road. And let us look at that unfortunate incident. Uh, that's using that as a reference point where there was no insurance on the building. Tell me, what type of insurance would you have recommended for such a building?
Okay, so for such a building, ideally, even apart from even we recommending, there's general regulatory insurance covers that they're supposed to have. One of which is supposed to be employer's liability or workman compensation, which actually it covers those working there at that time, so that such happens, their family members can be indemnified in terms of against financial loss. Because we know definitely.
Let me jump in there. What you say, there's what you called employer's liability,
Yes.
and you mentioned indemnity. What do you mean by indemnity for the families of those affected?
Okay. For the sake of understanding, indemnity means that normally in insurance practice, the insurance company is supposed to take the insured back to the state he was before the loss.
Okay.
So knowing fully well that in the case of death, we cannot take the insured back to the state, but there's a state we can take the beneficiaries to, because definitely they are dependents. Over 44 people died in that place, and some of them were breadwinners, some of them were women, adults, some of them had aged parents.
Yes.
So definitely there are people depending on them.
Okay, now let me flip around the situation. Let's assume that there was insurance on the building.
Okay.
What difference would it have made?
Wow. Wow. If there was insurance on that building, definitely we can't bring back the lives that have gone, and we can't bring back the building that is gone. But those who have died in that loss wouldn't have died in vain. Their beneficiaries would have had something at least to fall back on, and they will have something to pick their lives again and move on.
Okay, now speak to me specifically about the lives of those lost. Like you mentioned, the report say it's 44. Let's talk about the kind of insurance that would have been in place, so to speak, such that the lives of those lost are secured, and then the dependents of those lost are also secured. Tell us if you have anything like that, such that when the breadwinner passes on, when he leaves behind a family, the dependents, is there anything at all in insurance that can help secure the lives of those left behind?
Okay, there are so many policies, so many products that different companies actually give. But as regards the one we're talking about now, which
Yes.
is the issue of Gerard Road, there's a regulatory insurance that I call workmen compensation.
Okay.
And that insurance ideally will protect the workers there whilst they're there. It will protect them against any hazard,
Okay.
any risk. So some risk could be injuries, not even that. Because what we have been concentrating on has actually been people who have died in Gerard Road. What of those who have been injured? There are people who would have lost legs, lost limbs, lost their hands. Some people would have had damage to their brain. So there are so many things involved. But a workman compensation would have been able to indemnify those who are injured,
Okay.
would have been able to pay for their medical bills, and afterwards also give them the agreed sum, insured, such that at least they'll be able to go back to the state where they were and be able to pick their lives back. And for those who died there, the insurance companies would have been able to indemnify their beneficiaries, pay them some kind of financial, the agreement between them, and that's the agreement between the owner of that property and the insurance company. So at the end of the day, though they would have lost that breadwinner, they would have lost that person they have been depending on, but the financial loss they would have witnessed would not mean as what we're discussing today.
Okay, so there's something to take care of those, say for instance, a disease left behind,
Yes.
and also for the workers as well.
Yes. And on a general note
Yes.
also, even whilst we are not there,
Okay.
there's also general insurance that can cover people, and it's always very little. But the problem is actually people don't even want to hear about life
I'm going to
insurance in
get to
Nigeria.
that. I have that among the questions I have for you,
Okay.
talking about general insurance for people.
Yeah.
Before we get to that, I want to look at this Gerard Road. If I go down memory lane, the report tells us that we had 21-story buildings there. And I want to believe that some of the floors in that building had business enterprises. So tell me, is there any insurance that protects or safeguards your business? You know, for instance, for a situation such as what happened in Gerard Road or any other situation, is there any insurance to ensure business continuity?
Yes, definitely. So for people who are there, for people who have their business located in that building, definitely they would have taken what we call in general combined fire and burglary, which would have covered that place against not just fire, but also some special period that should this occur, we'll be able to get them back to state, or even when they lose all those properties there because it's not their building.
So you mentioned an insurance such as general
Combined fire and burglary.
combined fire and burglary insurance.
Yes.
You mentioned peril. Break it down for me. What do you mean by peril?
Okay, so there's general perils that are different from fire, which some of us, which actually happens and we don't take note of. Example, there could be storm, there could be wind. Do you understand? There could be flood. So now we're talking about fire. Those other instances would have happened on Gerald Road, and we'll still be discussing like this. So what it does is we know that those who are occupants, they are not the owner of the building. So we don't expect them to take insurance on that building. But
Okay.
occupying the building, they have their own content inside that building. They have their own things inside that building. They have their own workers inside their building, and they are directly responsible for their own workers.
Yes.
So we expect that number one, they are going to have combined fire and burglary, which takes care of their contents. We expect that they are going to have what we call a group life cover, which takes care of their own staff. Because by regulatory standard, every business that has about 5 staff is supposed to have what we call a group life insurance that covers the life of those working inside the place.
All right, if you just tuned in, it's 19 minutes past 10. It's Unilag 103.1 FM. The program is Safety and Security. My name is Adebola Adeduba. I'm talking about the role insurance plays in securing lives and properties. And I have here with me an insurance expert by name Adebayo Adedeji, an insurance practitioner with over 5 years experience. Now, very quickly, let me move very quickly. Tell me about, you mentioned not too long ago about people's attitude towards insurance. Let's talk about how easy, how difficult is it for you to pitch insurance policies to Nigerians?
Okay. I'm sure you'd have had times like God is my insurance. You'd have had times like God forbid. It's not my portion. The truth is, over here in this part of the world, insurance is one of the things we don't want to hear. Even when it's even regulated, when it's even compulsory, we always look for shortcuts, look for easy ways, we look for sharp practices in order not to really do the real thing. But the truth is, whilst everything happens to us, we blame the government for everything. But the little that we can do ourselves, do we actually do it? For example, in case of motor third party insurance, you even discover that people will prefer to go and buy the fake ones than approach insurance companies to buy the genuine ones. And when you see people selling the genuine ones, people will tell you, I don't need it because I just need it just
Now,
for documentary
let,
purpose.
let me jump in there. Touching quickly, you mentioned motor insurance. Tell
Yes.
me, for instance, how secured will I be? Say, for instance, I have a car which got on fire and I have an insurance policy. How would you reinstate me, or how would the insurance policy reinstate me back to my previous position?
Okay, so definitely we would have agreed on the value of your car, which we call the sum insured in
Okay.
our practice. So definitely when such issue happen, a case of fire is something that's visible, it's not arguable. So when such happens, all we do is we go there, we see the car. We have our own pre-loss that we would have done before we took the cover. And after that claim happens, after the risk occurs, we look at the same car again and actually confirm it's the same car we insured. And at that moment, we'll pay you the sum insured, which we've agreed if it's a total loss. So the
Okay.
truth is,
Yes.
what insurance does to you
Mm-hmm.
is that it takes care of that financial loss.
Financial loss.
So you would have
Okay.
lost a car,
Okay.
but the truth is, insurance will bring it back just because you paid that little
You
premium.
you paid a little sum. Now let's talk about, you also mentioned hesitation. And let us look at what are the causes of hesitation in acquiring insurance. Because in the past, some people would argue that the insurance companies are not trustworthy. They delay in paying claims. When you put in for a request to take your money, they dribble you here and there. So, what would you say are the hesitation people have often mentioned as to getting insurance policies?
Okay, so the truth is, for everyone who have had bad experience with insurance, I totally concur because some things have happened prior years to now. But nonetheless, one cannot say because of bad eggs that there are no good eggs. And I do make an example with people. Most of us, before we ended up getting married, we dated some people. And at the end of the day, we didn't, because we were jilted, now did not enter our marriage. Do you understand? So it's the same case with insurance. There's so many bad eggs. I'm not disputing that. But nonetheless, there are so many good eggs. And I can also say that one thing I tell people is when you want to pick insurance, what should come first? Should value come first or should pricing come first? Because most times people choose pricing over value. And at the end of the day, definitely there's nothing free even in Freetown.
All right, nothing is free even in Freetown. I like that phrase. Let me talk about people who would say, insurance isn't my priority. I need to feed myself. I need to fend for myself first before thinking about insurance. What do you say to this?
Okay, let me give you an example. Can you take a look back? Just take some years back. I'm sure everyone listening to me today, you will observe that while you were in secondary school, while you were in primary school, you had some friends who could not continue their education just because they lost their father. Should that be the case of our children? It should not. We should not make our children be in a state where they begin to depend on people for livelihood. And that's the case of insurance. It's not a matter of I don't even have money to feed myself. I don't even have money to take care of my children. For if anything happens to you, what's going to happen to those children will be worse than what you're presently saying. So, what I will say is that when it comes to insurance, the premium we're talking about is even very small. To have a life insurance, you might even be paying less than 20,000 in a year, less than 50,000 in a year, depending on the sum assured. That's depending on the value of the insurance you want to have. So, and also, it's not even just that, just as I said earlier, there are different types of insurance policies depending
Yes.
on who you're talking to, depending on the company you're talking to. So there are covers that everyone can afford, even to as low as 1,000 naira.
Okay, let me take advantage of the fact that you're here today. Let's backtrack a little bit. Let's talk about a general issue. And now, during the end SARS protest, a lot of properties were vandalized, from houses to banks to stores, even cars. In fact, a particular mall in the Lekki axis was completely gutted down. As we speak today, it's moribund with all the shops it has. Now, tell us, what is the importance of insuring our homes, our businesses, health, properties, and cars?
So the first thing I said when I entered here is there's risk everywhere. Even coming to the studio this morning, it's risky. So there's risk everywhere. So what insurance does is, we said earlier, it takes you back to the state you were before the loss. The truth is, in our homes we have various risks. We have people, we have risk of burglary, we have risk of fire, we have risk of even when it comes to life, we have risk of death, we have risk of permanent disability. These are general risks. So, but when we talk about home insurance, when we talk about the general things, just like we had in that NSAS, if I'm in my house today and somebody breaks into my home,
Yes.
and takes away my jewelries, takes away my property, takes away my phone, even we have such cases where people's nets are torn and phones are taken, insurance covers all this. So nobody is supposed to go through any kind of financial loss if you are taking the proud steps that you're supposed to take, which is taking insurance cover on those things, on those valuables that you take as very, very, very close valuables to your heart.
Yes. Let's talk about life insurance. How does insurance play a role in your life as an individual? How does it secure your life? Tell us the modalities as to what life insurance, for instance, is all about.
Okay, so generally we know the expectancy age in Nigeria now. So the truth is, there's a risk of death, there's a risk of critical illness, there's a risk of permanent disability. Somebody could be leaving the studio now, going just to Yaba, and an accident happens, and the man loses his limbs. What's going to happen? Then at that stage, he cannot walk. He doesn't have that capacity anymore. So what's going to happen to the beneficiaries? Will they, because their father lost his limb, they cannot go to school anymore? So that's what insurance actually does. So it doesn't take away that event.
Let
But
me,
what it does,
yes.
what it does actually
Yes.
is to replace, as in, is to indemnify, as in the financial impact.
Just to cushion the
To,
effects
yes,
of the
to
financial
cushion,
loss.
exactly. That's the
Looking
word.
at that situation you just mentioned, let's dig down on it. So, say for instance, you mentioned a man walking on the road who loses his limb and then he has dependents or loses his life. Tell me in practical terms, in such a situation, tell me, how much would he or could he have put into a life policy, for instance, and how much would be on ground for his beneficiaries to get?
Okay, so there, as I said earlier, there are different policies depending on different companies, but I will break it down to general. So, for example, a man is diagnosed of cancer and he has an insurance worth about 20 million. When I mean worth about 20 million, that's not the amount he's paying.
Okay.
That's the amount is so much he has agreed with the insurance company that should anything happens to me, I want you to either give me or you give my beneficiaries this amount.
Okay, so the sum assured is the amount agreed
Exactly.
for the insurance company to give the beneficiary of the disease.
Yes,
Go ahead,
exactly.
please.
So, but in the case of cancer,
Yes.
the man now has been diagnosed of cancers, and
Okay.
at that stage, he's not his regular self. He needs money because he has to go through so many chemotherapies and different kind of treatments. In that case, the insurance company will give him the sum assured
Okay.
because he has life insurance. So life insurance doesn't just cover death; it covers critical illness, it covers permanent disability.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes.
So when people take, but the general practice is when you tell people take life insurance, they look at you like you want to kill them the next day.
Now let's talk in numbers now. Using these as a case study, you said 20 million as a sum insured for the beneficiaries.
Yes.
With a sum assured like that, how much would I need to put in?
Okay, so the truth is, there's no basic, there's no, in terms of, there's no real figure I can give, and this is because the amount is dependent on the age of the person.
Okay.
It's dependent on the age of the person. Then it depends on the kind of life insurance also the person is buying.
Okay.
Because, for example, you can buy a short cover, you can buy a longer cover. Some people buy what we call a cover that covers them for their entire life. Some people buy a cover, maybe somebody just comes to Nigeria to work for 10 years and just wants to take a life insurance for just that 10 years. So there are different covers depending on what the person wants. So these things are what we will supply the insurance company with, and they will now advise you on the amount you'll be paying. And these payments could be monthly, could be yearly, could be quarterly, could be biannual, and it could even be single premium.
All right, our time is fast spent, just in less than 60 seconds. Give me your final words to someone out there who doesn't believe in insurance. In less than 60 seconds, please.
So the truth is, all of us can point accusing fingers at that event that happened on Gerald Road, but we should look deep into ourselves. Do you really have insurance? If you don't have insurance, then you have no right to criticize those who don't have insurance.
All right, that's a fine place to leave it. And that's the most we can take on today's edition of Safety and Security. We've been speaking about the role of insurance in securing lives and property. And my guest has been Adebayo Adedeji, an insurance practitioner with over 5 years experience in insurance practice, ranging from insurance sales, bank assurance, market analysis, insurance training and consultancy. Its core areas of practice are retail and SMEs. My name is Adebola Adeduba, and that's the most we can take today on Safety and Security. Bye for now.